regime said the premises of National Concord newspapers are hereby sealed up instead of sealed off. You may check the dictionary. So I took a bottle of wine to the court. And I said, my Lord, I think I just don't know yet. My Lord, this decree says that the premises of the Concord are being sealed up. Only a bottle of wine can be sealed up. A building cannot be sealed up. So the intention of the principal law is to seal off and not to seal up. On that basis, the judge ordered the reopening of the National Concord premises. Now, at the highest level, at the apex court, this is very important, so that we can know when the rain began to beat us. The Supreme Court then was one of the best in the world. In the days of Kayode Esho, Otutu Obaseki, and Abolu, and the rest of them, the military dictator had seized, just 3 cases, had seized the house of Ojuku's father on Queen's Drive, number 29. Ojuku went to court. While the case was pending, the military ejected him forcefully. The Supreme Court ensured support for the court and said, in any country where the rule of law is allowed, rule of force by separate is abandoned. Therefore, before we can hear this case, you must go and restore Ojuku and his family to that house. How dare you in those days not to comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court? The court was respected. The judgment was complied with. Another one, the Necom house on Marina was gutted by fire. Gamba, the head of the fire brigade service, federal, and his boys were able to quench the fire. The military didn't believe they did enough, so they were charged with murder because 2 people died in the fire incident. But they saved over 600 other people. They ran to Chief and the Falana in court. The murder charge was quashed. While the case was in court, it was interdicted. While the case was in court, it was dismissed. The judge who was handling the case couldn't stomach what happened. He resigned from the bench. Buhari was the head of state. For such embarrassment to the judiciary, the judge resigned. I think, Richard, you have written a book in honor of that judge. When the case got to the Supreme Court, and Justice Esho said, the military coming to power is always faced with a dilemma. Either to allow the rule of law or rule of martial force. Once the rule of law is allowed to operate, all authorities, including the military, must kowtow to the rule of law. By sacking this man while his case was pending in court, the military has committed contempt of court. To purge yourself of the contempt, thou shalt reinstate the man. The dismissal was annulled. The last one that will interest you, the late Professor Yayi, Professor Ziyayi, Professor Sage, Ishe Sage, and others were removed by the University of Benin. The late Akabashon had left me in court. As the government could not justify, the government was going to lose the case. So they ran to Babangida, were in trouble. Yet, we must send away all these radical and Marxist lecturers. I think about 10 of them. Babangida said, what do we do? People will just set up a visitation panel. So let's use that report. So they use the report of the visitation panel to dismiss or justify the removal of those lecturers. When the case got to the Supreme Court, my boss later said, no, if one of the High Court of Appeal, go and engage them there. The late Dr. Mudiagaoye was the lawyer to the government. And so he brought a decree. Once anybody has been sacked in the public interest, Decree 17 of 1984, nobody can look at it. And the judges, Oputa was on the panel, Kaliwet and others. They asked him, Dr. Mudiagaoye, the young man is saying that you are using a report of a visitation panel. Babangida as head of state would have sacked anybody under Decree 17. But once he acted as a visitor, he does not have visitorial powers to sack a lecturer in any university. And when Dr. Oge was insisting, one of them said, Dr. Oge, you and I attended the University of London. Could you have imagined the Queen as our visitor coming to sack a lecturer in the University of London? And the old man said, no, sir. He said, is that all? He said, my lord, that is all the way from Warri. Now, of course, the Supreme Court held in favor of the lecturers. That was the court then. Not a KPAC court, a court of justice. Now, these stories are important for those of us who still go to the court. Now, just to let you know, when I'm telling this story, a few things are happening in our country right now. The most serious is emergency rule. I was in Senegal for a meeting 2 weeks ago, meeting of the Media Foundation for West Africa. So while I was in the meeting, somebody rushed in and said, there has been a coup in Nigeria. So I rushed down. We were there, they speaking French, you know. He didn't quite hear the news. So I went out to find out. I then rushed back. No, it wasn't a coup. Emergency rule has been posed in one state, and they appointed an administrator. The president appointed. And they said, is the president not elected? Not elected. I said elected. What of the governor? I said the governor is elected. How can you remove him? And then replace him with a retired soldier. Mr. Falana, what kind of democracy is that? I was utterly embarrassed. And I think Audu has made the point, Chief Audu, that by appointing a former military dictator to go ahead and state, the government may be tempting soldiers to disrupt the entire exercise. Now, for lawyers, please, when you hear any lawyer defending emergency, I beg you, ask one question. What section of the Constitution, what section allows removal of the governor and deputy and then suspension of the legislature? Please ask, because this regime last year went to court to challenge the removal of governor and of local government chairman and councillor by governors. And the Supreme Court was total by saying no governor has the power in Nigeria to remove elected chairman and councillor. And this regime was celebrating the judgment. Even though the Supreme Court even went off the track by amending the Constitution to please the executive. They rewrote Section 162 of the Constitution, which stipulates that every month the statutory allocation of states, of local government, shall be paid into a state local government joint account. Supreme Court said, no, that shall pay directly. That judgment was delivered in July last year. As if they complied with? No. And they won't comply if you must know. Now the point I'm making, it is Sunday when you have a KBAC in power that the judgments of court, particularly the Supreme Court, are treated with ignominy. Another case that will interest you currently, the NURTW had an election in August last year. Barua was re-elected. His opponents, led by Oluomo, went to court, National Industrial Court. They lost.
Conduce to you.
They went to the Court of Appeal. They lost. The Court of Appeal is the last court, is the Supreme Court on Labor Matter. As I'm talking to you, as we're gathered here, Oluomo, not elected by either the members or the court. You know, court also elect people in Nigeria. He's the one in the secretariat of that union today. While Barewa is kept outside the secretariat of the union. To take over that secretariat, they invaded the place theater and killed one Nigerian. Barewa was charged with killing the person in order to get him out of the office. So he and his officers were detained as murder suspects. So by the time they came out, the secretariat had been taken over and given to somebody who never won election or won any case in court. The point I'm making, the regime chooses and picks whichever judgments it likes to comply with and obey. I recently intervened with respect to the case of Natasha by saying that not less than 10 cases decided by Nigerian courts have held that suspension of a legislator in Nigeria is illegal. Because once you do so, when you do so, you have denied the constituency representation in the parliament. That is the law. Mr. or Senator Godswill Akpabio was in the Senate under Dr. Bukola Saraki when in 2017 Senator Aliu Ndume was suspended. He went to court and won the case. Godswill Akpabio was also in the Senate when in 2018 Senator Ovie Omagege was suspended. He went to court and won his case. In any country where the rule of law operates, once there is a precedent, you comply. I understand a senior lawyer, the Senate president, when he was told, if this lady goes to court, she will win. He said, that will take time now. Let her go to court. You know that is the language in Nigeria. You know you are wrong. You say, let him go to court, let her go to court. You are not going to use your own money. You are going to use the money of the state. It is a height of impunity for a senior lawyer to ignore the judgments of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court on any given matter. That is what is going on in Abuja. Yesterday, the governor of Kogi State, Olodo. No, I won't go that far. They say I should call him Olodo. I call him Ododo as a lawyer. He issued an order, illegal, that I hereby ban all rallies and meetings. And I also ban convoys of vehicles, believing that Natasha was going to come in a convoy. And the people of Kogi did all of us proud yesterday by showing, and this is the point, a people organized can never be defeated. They gathered in a mammoth crowd, a crowd that the governor could not mobilize in that state. In spite of the threat to arrest anybody who defies the order of the governor, people threw down. And while they were monitoring the roads, this lady came through the sky. You know, they couldn't ban movement of planes and helicopters. So, totally shocked and rattled, totally shocked and embarrassed. What I title my paper is Rule of Rulers, not Rule of Law. Rule of Law means all of us are bound by the law. We are treated equally by the law. We must comply with the law, including the government. But that's not like the case in Nigeria. What you now have is rule of rulers, rule of Kagesi. Whatever they say, nobody will challenge it. It's not a question of, you can't know. Yes, you can gather and be money forever. No. What we should do is to decide collectively here today that those things that Inca stood for, we are going to continue to demand from the government and from the enemies of our people how to reorganize our country. For those of us in Lagos, and we must start this year. Inca have been keeping quiet. No. Inca will have been joining issues with the people in Abuja. And that is why we must continue to celebrate Inca, not once a year, every day. And the only way we can do that is to identify with the masses of our people, to shake off the heavy load that these people have imposed on our people. Please, for those of you in the social media, I beg you, increase, intensify by joining issues with them. There are juggling figures now that things are getting better. Are you not aware? The juggle figure, this is a change rate. They now say oil is coming down to 750. How did you take it? Where did you take it from? They said the naira dollar is improving. How much was it when you came to power?